here tonight on Thursday, August the 27th, 2026, for the first official MUST meeting for Scott County. And with us, representing Baker Tilly, is Paige Sandstone. Welcome, Paige. I guess just to get started, if you guys are good, we'll do some introductions and see who all we're talking to and then get going. So I'm J.R. Ward with the Scott County Council. I'm the president of the council.
Chris Fugit, the clerk treasurer for the city of Austin.
I'm Jan Hardy, the clerk treasurer for the city of Scottsburg.
And I'm Paige Sandstone with,
Look at that.
I'm Paige Sandstone with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors.
Clint Lamb with Accelerate Indiana Municipalities, Inc.
Joe Smith, Austin City Council, Jennings Township Fire.
John Miller, County Council District
Robert Jones, Johnson County trustee.
Well, thank you all for being here. I think we all know that this is something we have to do in our community, and it's an opportunity for all of us to come together and show that we can work together. Even though we have for many years, we have all shared animal control and several other things amongst ourselves, which makes this much easier, I think, than other municipalities because we're so good at working together. And it
You'll
just
never believe what watermelon does.
means a
for
lot
each
for
of
us to
Watermelon,
have you guys here with
8.5.
us. So, what are we watching?
Sorry, I was just trying to get, it must have been must have been yesterday's board of work since
Ah.
I missed it. Sorry.
You're good. Well, where do we need to start, Paige?
I can start.
All right.
So this is the first official task force meeting, and as you see, these are the three members of the task force. This task force is going to vote on a plan for local income taxes in the county. Please know that this is a non-binding plan. This is an exercise that is required by the recent legislation that was passed. And if you all don't know, there's been a huge change in the local income tax structure that's coming down the road. The new local income taxes will need to be adopted in 2028, and the distributions will start in 2030. So again, this is a process to develop a proposed plan. They're not going to vote on any rates. They're not going to make any final decisions that are binding. This is basically just a proposed plan. They will vote on the proposed plan. Once we develop this plan, we are going to submit it to the State Department of Local Government Finance no later than November 2nd. The DLGF then will submit that to the Legislative Council. So this is really a great opportunity to provide input to the legislature right before they go into the 2027 legislative session. So the goal, again, of this task force is to develop a plan for the income tax rates, and there's several different buckets of income tax, and I'm going to go through a schedule, which we have some copies up front on the chair if you didn't get one when you came in, because I know it may be a little bit hard to see up on the screen, but I'm going to go through each one of these buckets. This is a baseline. The task force did not tell me, hey, we want to see this rate for this bucket, et cetera. We started off with what we usually do is a baseline of what rates make sense for each bucket to have some sort of revenue neutrality. So we're trying to make the units whole and not lose any local income tax under this new structure. But as you're going to see, that may not always be the case because we have to adopt one single rate for each of these buckets. Well, that one single rate may not be enough for one or more of the taxing units. So it may become more clear as I go through this schedule. So what we're seeing up on the screen right now and what you have in front of you is what we're going to call scenario one. So under scenario one, the big thing is that we are assuming that the two municipalities, Austin and Scottsburg, will opt in to a county-wide municipal rate. So I'll just stop for just 1 second to let you know what that means. So under this new structure, municipalities that have a population of 3,500 or more can opt into a county-wide local income tax rate. Like they can be a part of a municipal rate that's taxed on everyone in the county. If you are less than 3,500, then you just automatically are in that. Well, both of these municipalities has the choice to opt in or out. So under this scenario, they both opt in, and you're gonna see why that would be beneficial to both of these municipalities. So let's look at that. That's what I have at the very top of the page. I do want to say that the far left-hand column where it says 2026 certified lit, that is the current local income tax revenue that's received by each of these taxing units. So that's where they are currently. Your rate in Scott County right now is 2.16%. So that's where you're at now. So we want to compare where you're at now to what we estimate the local income tax revenue will be under the new structure. So under the municipalities' county-wide rate, there would only be 2 municipalities, Austin and Scottsburg. So if we want to try to keep it somewhat revenue neutral, we would need a rate of 1%. So a 1% countywide municipal rate would generate about $1.4 million for Austin, so that's almost double for them. But for me to get Scottsburg to be revenue neutral, we had to put it at 1%, because you can see that brings in about $2.5 million, which is just slightly more than what Scottsburg's getting now. So that is 1% for the municipal. And again, just to let you know that that rate would be taxed or assessed on everyone, all the residents within the county. It's not just the people of Austin and Scottsburg. It's everyone, because it's a county-wide municipal rate. All right, so moving on to the county unit of government. So right now, the county unit is getting $7.3 million of local income tax, and that is comprised of certified shares, what we call certified shares, that goes into the general fund, and then also public safety local income tax. So those two combined generate about $7.3 million. The county does get a share of the county-wide municipal lit. That's just the way the statute's written. So the county share, if those 2 cities opt in, the county share of the municipal lit would be $1.65 million. And then the county can also establish a county services lit. The maximum that they can adopt is 1.2%, but to keep them revenue neutral, they would only have to go to 0.103%, 1.03%, because they're getting a share of that municipal. And again, that would be assessed on everybody within the county. The next bucket are the townships. So there's, let's see, 2, 4, 5 townships here in Scott County.
Yes.
So under the township bucket, the maximum rate that the county can adopt for townships is 0.05%. So we went ahead and put that to the max, because it appeared that that's what we would need in order to make these townships revenue neutral. So you can see, for instance, you know, if you look at all of them combined, they're collecting about $230,720 for 2026. If we do 0.05% at the max, all of them would be made whole, except for Johnson Township's gonna be a little bit short by maybe, I don't know, 8,000, and then Findlay Township is gonna be short maybe by 1,000, or maybe not even that. But you can see from that is, you know, we do the best we can to make everybody whole, but that 0.05% is the highest we can go on that, so that's gonna be the best we can do on that. Then we move to the library. So in the library bucket, 0.05% is the maximum for libraries. You only have 1 library in this county. Oh, thank you so much. I should have said something. I'm looking offline. So under the libraries, you only have 1 library. We put it at the max at 0.05%. That would generate $277,000 versus what they're getting now is $344,000. So unfortunately, we can't be revenue neutral there, but that is the statutory maximum that we can give for the libraries. Now we can drop down to fire and EMS providers, and this may need to be vetted. We did the best we can to determine, this is our first go around, by the way. We appreciate input, but we think we've got captured all of the fire and EMS, but there's nothing final here today, so if we haven't, you can let us all know. But with fire and EMS, the method to distribute this, well, first of all, the maximum rate that the county can adopt is 0.4%. So that's what we put here. The distribution method has a little bit of complexity in it because the county council can decide how much of the population and how much of the service area road miles they can use within that calculation. So in our just baseline estimate, we did 50-50. So we're using a factor of 50% population and 50% square miles of service area. That's just a starting point. We can manipulate it or run some other scenarios. But with that starting point, you can see how much each of the volunteer fire departments get, and Scott County EMS would get a share of 1.7 million under this scenario. So I think it's important to note a couple things. One is that there is no requirement for this fire and EMS local income tax to go to volunteer fire departments, but we included them in the calculation because at the discretion of the county council, they can certainly distribute that to volunteer fire departments. So we included it in this. Number two, it's important to note that many of these volunteer fire departments, they get monies from townships via what townships get through local income tax. We have not shown that on here because that's shown under the township column, what the township's getting in local income tax, but the townships could very well be turning this around and putting it right back to the volunteer fire departments. So I guess all that said is that if there's a rate adopted for townships, the townships will get those dollar amounts, but then also the fire departments will get their own local income tax if that's the way it's prepared in this county or planned out for this county. And then the last item is property tax relief, local income tax. Unfortunately, there's no provision in the statute right now to provide property tax relief with local income tax like you have now. This county provides $887,000 of credits to taxpayers currently as we stand here now, but that's going to expire at the end of 2027, or 2028. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused, 2028. So again, there's no provision, so we've not built in any rates because we can't. So under this particular scenario, again, it's Austin and Scottsburg opt into the countywide, and we try to keep it as neutral as possible as far as making the units whole so they're not losing local income tax revenue. You would go from a rate of 2.16% to 2.53%. Now, if the task force wants to try to keep the rate neutral, we would have to look through some of these to see where we could pull down the rate in some way. But really, all these entities are relying upon local income tax. So I think that would be a tough decision for the task force to make, but that is kind of where we're at. So let's go on to scenario number 2. So scenario number 2 is it's where Scottsburg and Austin decide to go out and they adopt their own local income tax rate. So they can adopt their own, and the maximum they can adopt is 1.2%. But you can see that 1.2% based on just the adjusted gross income of that individual municipality does not bring in what they're currently getting. In fact, it's deficient. For Austin, it's not too bad. Austin right now gets $708,000, but with 1.2% at the max, they would only get $680,000 roughly. But then you go to Scottsburg, and that's a pretty big difference. They're currently getting about 2.5 million. That would take them down to 1.7. So if you remember earlier, I said there's going to be a reason why, or you're going to see why there's a benefit to opt into the county-wide. Now, what's the drawback for the cities? Well, they're relying on the county council to adopt that. If they don't want the county council to adopt that and they want to do it on their own, yes, they certainly can, but you can see that they're going to be deficient in revenue if they do that. And it's also going to cause a further tax rate increase for the residents that live in those areas. it also causes a difference of what the county gets. Because remember, I said in the calculation, if there is a county-wide municipal rate, the county gets a share. Well, if both Austin and Scottsburg opt out, the county will not get a share of that municipal rate. So you can see what happens with the county. The county's getting 7.3 right now. If there is no county-wide municipal rate, then they're only gonna get their county services rate, which is about 6.7 million. So that, again, is revenue deficit for the county. And the county would have to go to the full 1.2% because they can't tax on the adjusted gross income of those two municipalities that opted out. They can only do the unincorporated part of the county. So it does change the number significantly depending on whether Austin or Scottsburg opts in or out. The rest of these stay exactly the same. There are no changes. Whether Scottsburg and Austin opt in or out, it doesn't impact the libraries, the townships, the fire and EMS. It doesn't impact those. It's just really the county unit and the municipality. So that's probably one of the important things about trying to develop this plan is first trying to determine who's gonna opt in, who's gonna opt out. Once we find that out, then we can start running scenarios. You know, if you want to bring the rate down or if you think this is okay. I do have rate impacts on the next page, so if you wanna go to the next page.
Paige, before we
Oh,
jump
yes,
there.
sure, absolutely.
If you don't care if I jump in.
Oh,
but
absolutely. Go
On
ahead.
scenario 2, if we went that way, living in our most populated areas of Austin and Scottsburg, your rate would be quite a bit more than the county.
2.9%.
And more than what even it would be if we all worked together, which, I mean, my opinion, that's not good if you're taking more from the most populated
Right.
areas in our county.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I didn't mention that. There at the bottom of this schedule, it shows if you live in Austin under this scenario, you would pay the maximum allowable statutory rate, which is 2.9%. You'd pay that same amount in Scottsburg, 2.9%, and then if you live in the unincorporated area, everywhere except Austin and Scottsburg, you would pay 1.7%. You know, and maybe you're thinking, oh, wow, 1.7%, that's less than a 2.16 now, but these units aren't getting made whole. It's a revenue deficit situation. So it really is not a good situation to be in.
I just had a quick question. On
Yeah.
the property tax rate, just for my records, their overall rate is 2.16. Do you know what that percentage is?
I do.
You know, if you can get to it.
Yeah, no, I know what it is. My computer went to sleep. I will get that to you in just a second. So then the last page is, the taxpayer impact. So in this county, the average adjusted gross income is $54,200. I actually have 4 different scenarios, but let's just focus on the second column, which is $54,200. So a person that has an AGI of $54,200 currently pays local income taxes here in Scott County of $1,171 for the whole year. It's coming out of your paycheck. On a monthly basis, that's $98. If you were to do scenario 1, you would pay $1,371, which is an increase of about $200. Which works out to be $17 a month increase. So it's not that big of an increase going from 2.16% to the 2.53%. Under scenario 2, which is kind of the one that is not giving you enough revenue but yet increasing the rates, the taxes are going up to $401. It's going up by $401. So it's going from $1,171 to $1,572. So you're getting an increase of $401 instead of $200. So that's a difference there. For the unincorporated area, you would see a decrease of $250. But again, I know that sounds good for the taxpayer, but Scottsburg would be losing almost $1 million in revenue. So you gotta kind of weigh those two. So I mean, from my perspective as, you know, a financial advisor, scenario 1 makes a lot of sense, but it really is something that the municipalities are gonna have to consider. are they okay with, you know, being under that county-wide rate?
Bless you.
So that is really what I wanted to show for this evening, and just try, now I'd like to get input, whether it's from the task force or the audience, to see what do you think about these numbers? Is there something that you would like for us to run, even if it's next time, or is there any other, would you like to see additional data? Like, we can show you what your property tax credits might be going into the future, because Senate Enrolled Act 1, if you would like to see that, that can be brought to the next meeting. But I think for you all, this is kind of straightforward. I mean, you can see what you're getting now. You can see what these kind of revenue neutral would be that 2.53%. You can kind of see, I mean, I guess what I think what's positive about this is that you don't have to go to the 2.9% to be
Right.
made whole. I think that's a positive thing. So I think I'll open it up for
What
comment.
do you guys think? Would you like to hear from audience and then our?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
fine.
you guys are stakeholders the same, so anybody out there got any input, or what do you all think about options like this?
I don't have input, I do have a question, though.
Sure.
When you're talking about townships, whether it's scenario 1 or scenario 2, that doesn't change. When you look down at the fire and EMS providers, you know, currently, township is, most are going through fire contracts.
Yes.
For the fire department, so that's a large chunk of most of the trustees,
It
at
is.
least myself.
Yeah.
And Johnson. You know, we being with Johnson, they will take the biggest cut out of any of the townships, whether it's scenario 1 or 2. So you say that the fire EMS, so does that mean our fire fund would go away and the county would be under contract with these fire departments and trustees wouldn't have that anymore?
No, actually, it doesn't mean that at all. In fact, what it means is that the volunteer fire departments would get a direct distribution from the county, and they can do with that what they need to do as far as operating their fire department. And then the townships would also get a direct distribution just of the township local income tax. So this is the first time where a fire or EMS provider has been able to get a direct distribution. But again, it's not, they're not getting that direct distribution now, they're getting it through contractual. So this 0.4% is not something that the county has to adopt. Or they can adopt something at a lower rate. But the townships, under this particular scenario, the townships would get a distribution, and also the volunteer fire departments would get a separate distribution. So, like, for instance, if you're a township and all of your lit goes to this volunteer fire department, well, now they're gonna get kind of 2 distributions. That might help them in a big way, because I know, at least through my travels in the state, we have there's a lack of volunteerism, you need equipment, there's so many things that volunteer fire departments need. This could be an infusion of some money that they haven't had in the past.
So you're saying the Johnson Township scenario, the trustee would receive $8,000 less in lit funds, but the department's gonna receive $55,700.
Yes. Yes, yep. So that's a good point you just brought up, because I didn't mention that, but some of the loss is kind of made up down here to where, you think, oh, I'm not getting everything I need to send to the fire department. They're getting their direct distribution.
And that's what's confusing.
As a trustee, that'd be-
Some of my
You're not,
responsibilities, I have to provide fire protection for my township, whether it's fire contract or not, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're getting it from the county, then
But you can still contract. No, you would still contract, but now that they're getting a distribution, the question is, okay, how much do you need above and beyond that distribution? There would still be those contractual relationships. There would have to be. The county's not in the business of contracting with these volunteer fire departments. The county's just gonna give them the distribution because it's required by law, and then you're gonna say, okay, above and beyond the distribution that you're getting, what do you need from me from a contractual relationship?
I just have a question, clarification. There are volunteer fire departments.
Yes.
Is that required through county council?
No, and I mentioned that at the beginning. That's okay.
Is the trustees gonna be in charge of that money to the fire department when it gets given to them?
It would go straight to the fire
It'll
department.
go straight, the way it's written right now, it would go straight to the volunteer fire department. Now, I want to preface this by saying that we're getting ready to go into a 2027 legislative session. There could be all kinds of changes, because I know there's been some talk out there that like probably State Board of Accounts, they don't want that going straight to the volunteer fire department. Because if it does, the volunteer fire department will have to account for it, and some of them do have to file entity annual reports, so they will have to properly account for it. But there's some thought that maybe this should go to the township and then it goes out to the fire department. But right now, the statute is not clear. It appears that it would go directly to the volunteer fire department. But Clint's right, the statute says right now that if the county adopts a fire and EMS lit, it has to go to the following: a fire territory, a fire district, which you don't have either of those, municipal fire departments, has to go there. And then it's at the discretion of the council to do it, to provide it to the volunteer fire departments. Again, this is just a scenario, if the task force is like, well, they don't get it now directly, we don't wanna do that, then we can rerun it.
Good questions.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else, or any other ideas or scenarios we should look at or should run?
What if the fire department chief doesn't want to come up with that money? I'm just asking.
No, I know, I think that's a good question.
Because you got a department, $55,000, he might not want responsibility. But he's a volunteer.
And there's no contract or anything, it's make changes, you basically just give them free money, so.
I would think, I mean, again, I don't want to speak for our fire chief, but that's going to add a audit from the State Board of Accounts, and that's going to be dollars spent for that fire department that they're not currently, you get audited now.
We do, well, not typically, but we're subject to audit now.
Right, but, I mean, if you get this money, I would think if you get this money straight from this, that it's gonna make you subject to State Board of Account audits
Yeah.
and.
I would almost expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And I
and
would-
it's not that they're a big deal, but
Yeah.
it's gonna cost money to do it.
I would also say that the actual adoption of these taxes won't take place until 2028. I think it would be prudent to have the volunteer fire departments come in, and if some of them say, we don't want this, then we can redo the formula, perhaps lower that 0.4% and be like, okay, well then, we can just lower our rate if you don't want it. Now, if there's just a few that don't want it, maybe we can figure out a way to redistribute to the ones that do want it. You know, there could be some ways we could handle that. But again, this is just kind of a test run, and it's exercise to develop some plan, but it's not binding. So these are all good questions and all good things that we need to be thinking about. When we do get to 2028, where it's no longer a test run, we gotta really make these decisions.
I don't think there's a chief in this county that would say there's no need.
It's just gonna cause them to have to account for it. Yeah.
And I think, like, that's a conversation that needs to be had about fire protection in this whole county and what it looks like moving forward. And I think the fire chiefs probably need to get together, and maybe some of us go sit and talk with them and just to have these numbers in hand to explain, or even their township trustees, because, you know, Scottsburg City, for one, they have a municipal fire department, but then their same fire department functions a volunteer side. Austin functions primarily as a volunteer side with the city, so it gets real muddy there. But I can't imagine you're gonna have someone come in and say, I don't want the money, because I don't wanna have to learn how to account for it. But I do agree that we should be open-minded in thinking that perhaps the way it's always been isn't maybe the best way moving forward. And I think we all have to agree that the state is telling government entities as a whole that they are expecting consolidation and moving things together. They're expecting things to kind of start to merge together and have more local control, which is what this comes from. But with that also comes, you know, in the future, do we have 5 separate fire departments, or do we change and have something different? And I know it's not a happy conversation to have, and nobody really likes change, but it's kind of being pushed on. And much like trustees, you guys went through an audit this year, and I think we all know the state is pretty much saying they're not gonna look like what they do now. And none of us have the answers as to what that's going to look like, but I think that conversation is, if we don't have it, we're not being honest with ourselves, is my opinion. But I'm happy that we're not at the full 2.9% to get where we need to be. And in reality, if we're looking from 2026 to 2030 and you're increasing 0.4%, that's probably common growth anyway. You're gonna be probably close to that because it does change throughout the years. I mean, our local income has changed over the last several years that I've been involved with it. So I would say once we get closer to the 28, 29 year, we're probably not gonna be at the 2.16, and we're gonna actually even be closer to the 2.5 anyway.
Yeah, I think, something I didn't mention is that these numbers are based on your current adjusted gross income. If you have more people that live here, because it's based on where you live, not work. So all you have to do is get people to live here, then that rate could be lower, actually.
True.
It could actually be lower, because we're just basing it on information right now. 4 or 5 years from now, you may have a higher adjusted gross income because of people moving in.
And we do have a lot of growth.
I was
I
gonna
didn't mean
say,
to cut
no,
you
no,
off,
we
but,
got,
that's what turns me away from scenario 2 as much, because a lot of the growth is the work of Austin and Scottsburg and bringing residents and good quality homes and single-family homes to our area. And I think if you jump to the 2.9% to live in a municipal area like Scottsburg or Austin, you're just shooting yourself in the foot with all the work that you guys have been doing, trying to get good quality residents here
And you're falling
as
short.
well.
And we're, both municipalities are falling short
Yeah.
at that rate, so.
And I think we have to agree that the more houses we add, the more police and fire we have to add. So that's not gonna go down. That rate is gonna go up no matter what we do, because that's
Have to
just
have
the world we live in. You have to have services for the residents, which is a good thing, and I'm not saying it's not. We definitely need growth here, and I embrace it, but the realistic numbers are, you're gonna have to increase with the residents we bring in. And another thing, sorry, Robbie, I just seen you, but, Austin and Scottsburg both, I have to say and commend you and your mayors and your representation, because from a law enforcement background that I come from, and from fire and EMS, your services are spread throughout the county when needs are here. And I think people need to understand that if there's a true need in our county, it's not gonna be a shock for an Austin police officer to show up in Lexington, or a Scottsburg police officer to show up in Findlay, because you guys allow, it's not like you get to the end of your all city limits and stop. So to share the expense, I think is reasonable to look that route. So, Robbie, I didn't mean to, what do you mean?
Just one quick question again. On the property tax relief, you're showing that $887,000 that
Mhm.
you're giving,
Yep.
the property tax relief. So that's going away, I know.
Yes.
The statute and all that says that. But where does that fall back into the lit structure? Because it's not, I don't see where it's showing it's going back into the lit.
Yeah,
Is
unfortunately.
that going back to the state?
So,
County not getting it?
and to go back to Clint, it's 0.16%, for the property tax relief. So right now, let me kind of explain how that's working. Right now, this 887,000 is distributed to the county, and the county actually distributes that back out in the form of a property tax settlement. So when you as a township get your tax settlement in June and December, it's buried in there. Because what it is, it's paying for credits on the tax bill. So when this expires, what's gonna happen is the taxpayers will still get credits, but they'll get more credits now. So that loss you get in your property tax settlement, like what the difference between what's certified by DLGF and what you actually collect, that's gonna get higher. Yeah, so that, it does just go away. Now, I have had some counties write into their plan things that aren't statutorily available, so you could write into this plan, the task force could, that, hey, we want to continue that 0.16%. that would be part of the overall rate. You can do that. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen in the legislative session, but, you know, you could think outside the box and say, hey, we don't want that to go away. But right now, the way it's written is it will just expire, and either the taxpayer will pay more, or they will get those circuit breaker credits.
Which the intent page, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've lived in the realm of circuit breakers for so
Yes.
long.
Yeah.
That's part of the intent with Senate Bill 1 is to totally change,
Yes.
for the vast majority of my 44 years of life, that's how we've done property tax. And that's gonna go away just shortly after this comes in, and
So
a
the-
lot of changes
The
there.
property tax credits are projected to start declining as assessed values go up. So I guess from my view, it was stated as a property tax relief bill, but I don't know that they're gonna see much property tax relief, because yes, there's a bunch of credits, but the assessed value is still continuing to grow. We ran some models internally in our firm that showed a home at its current value and then what it might cost in 5 years. That taxpayer is in fact paying more in property tax and will pay more in local income tax. So, I mean, I'm just saying it like it is.
Well, and I think, the reason the assessed value, because that's kind of an arguing point as well, is like, you know, why did mine go up? I didn't make any changes, but
Yeah.
the state level changed cost tables.
Yes.
So the
yes.
cost to rebuild, and it did affect residential, but it affected business and commercial more.
Yes.
But that's the huge change. And then I was told at some of the meetings I've attended up in Indianapolis is the advice right now is as your assessed value raises, don't run out and try to bond that or, you know, capture that assessed revenue, because you're gonna just counteract everything that's trying to happen at your property tax level.
Right, so it used to be that as your assessed value increases, you would fill in that rate reduction with a bond issue to keep your tax rate level. The legislature doesn't want you to do that. So they've actually said, you know, those rolling bond issues, you used to be able to do every single year, now you can't do it, like, it has to be every 5 years now. They're trying to avoid people, I guess, keeping the tax rate level instead of dropping. Because, again, there's an inverse relationship. As the assessed value goes up, the tax rate goes down because it takes a lower tax rate to generate your levy. But-
If the county had a countywide fire district, is the maximum rate still 0.4%?
It's still 0.4%, but if it's a county-wide, then all of it would go to the fire, I won't say all of it. Part of it would go to Scott County EMS, and the rest would go to the fire district.
So that 2.2 million would be the total.
That's the total, and that
for
2.2.
Fire and EMS both?
Yes, correct. That 2.2 would be divided between those two.
Now, let me ask you, if we had, let's go with Joe's scenario, we had that, and our EMS said, well, I'll take 1 million and the other 600, can that revolve over to the fire departments as well, or something of that
Yes.
scenario?
Yes, the council has a lot of flexibility with this one, the fire and EMS, on how you allocate it. As long as you can work in something with square miles and population, that has to be a part of the formula. You can say, okay, EMS gets 10% and the rest goes to fire and EMS. So you've got a lot of flexibility with that one. Yeah.
Good question, Joe. Anybody have any others, or? A lot of information to take in and a lot of changes coming our way, I think.
Yes, a lot of unknown changes, I'd like to say, because this is what is so hard for all of us entities and everyone here in the room that works on budgeting. This is just a crapshoot, basically,
way to put it.
because we don't know, and to talk about that, the more people that live here, you know, that would help change our rate, and we all know, as they said, the more people live here, we have to have additional services. But the city of Scottsburg was very bleak in our first numbers we got from Baker Tilly, very bleak. Because there would have been nothing that could, if we're losing $1 million, that's people, that's services. So I thank these two entities for all of us coming together, and for Paige helping us work on a number that isn't at that max, that 2.90, so that hopefully we can all still exist and provide services, because The other way it was for Scottsburg, we would have had to have cut services.
Well, I
And we
mean,
were gonna have more people, yeah, not a good scenario.
As we grow in Austin, I mean, you're talking $30,000 or $40,000. I mean, which is manageable. You don't want to lose any money, but you know, as we grow, how do you expand your services? How do you expand police? How do you expand all this other stuff? I mean, it's.
How do you just maintain?
Well, yeah, I mean, how,
You
yeah,
know,
you,
it's
you
like-
can't make, you're all,
yeah.
all you're gonna do is maintain, but you're spreading everybody thin.
Yeah. So,
Well, I think you, Paige, for all of the numbers and.
Yes.
I think, my opinion, I think we all need to look more at scenario one, just because that's doable. I, as well as many other council members, and I think city and county across the board, don't wanna ever have to increase money out of our citizens' pocket. But at the end of the day, you have to look at what's the best option to keep services in our county.
Right.
And
But at the end of the day, this is what.
with the changes, the change from 2.16 to 2.53 over a 4-year period is pretty palatable. I
And
think.
this is, we're being handed this. I mean,
Oh, 100%.
this is being passed down to
Yeah.
us, so.
Anybody have any last questions or comments or anything?
So
Sir?
you're gonna have legislature's gonna be meeting again on this, so a lot of this could all change.
It could all change. Yes, it can.
We can make our decisions, maybe nothing.
Right, well, and yes, you're right. This is non-binding, but again, I think this is a perfect opportunity to provide the legislature with what will work and won't work in your county. And because the legislature is really, they want to see you do this and see that you can sit at a table together and have these discussions. I think if you just didn't do it, that would kind of look bad for, you know, Scott County, really. But I realize that
I
it,
understand that, but we're.
yeah.
Paige.
No, I know you are, but I think you're also doing it for yourselves, because how many times do you all get in the same room together to talk about?
Could you go over the timelines that you went, I mean, on
Yes,
how this?
yes, I can.
Please.
Yeah. So next steps is, I think you need to kind of think about this, and we really should schedule another meeting. If you, as you think about this, want us to run any scenarios that you want me to bring to the next meeting, I'll be happy to do that. If you decide, you know what, we like this plan, then I'll draw up the plan for the next meeting for you guys to read through and possibly adopt. I mean, it's kind of up to you. Remember, this is non-binding. It's not going to hold you to anything, but it is a way to see if this works. And I think in this county it does work. I'm working with other counties where the rates just won't work. 2.9% is not enough, and it won't work. But here, yeah, it works. In fact, it works because you don't even have to go up to the 2.9.
Could you go to the time, sorry, Chair.
Which says a lot for all of our elected officials in this county, that we have kept our spending and our overhead low enough
Yeah.
that we can live
That you
within
can
this.
make this work.
And I understand what you're wanting. One comment I would say on John's is, from all of the legislators I've talked to across our area that represent us, I think you could see some changes to this, but ultimately I feel very confident in sitting here today saying you are going to see a form of this.
Oh, yes,
Um,
I agree.
They're not gonna show up and just say, yeah, scrap this, we're gonna do something different. I wholeheartedly believe
Yeah.
in that timeline we're gonna talk about, you're going to see some form of, it may change a little bit or tweak here and there, but this is what we're gonna see moving forward.
Page the timeline,
Yeah, yeah.
we're doing this to the end of the year, next year, nothing happens. 2028, we have that's the timeline, if you could.
Yeah, okay, so let's start from, so this this task force, you need to generate a report, and we need to get it to DLGF by November 2nd, and then they'll give it to the legislature December 1st. Okay, then we'll have the legislative session, there could be some changes. By October 1st of 2028, these rates will need to be adopted. So this is kind of a test run, because during 2028, early 2028, or even in 27, you'll have to start really, it'll start becoming binding. I think one thing that's gonna change in the legislation is, for cities to know whether they opt in or out, the county's gonna have to tell them what rates they plan to adopt. Like, if you both say, yes, we're gonna opt in, the county council should be able to give you a good idea of what rate they're going to adopt for you countywide. Like if they say, yes, well, okay, that's fine, we're gonna adopt 1%. Because what's causing an issue is that not everybody can wait until October 1st. Like, let's say you two decide you wanna opt out, but you wait until October 1st to adopt. Well, then the county's left in the wind, like, okay, what are we gonna adopt? Because we wanna make sure our rate stays reasonable for the taxpayer. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
like,
I
this is
agree. I think we gotta
totally-
continue to work together.
Oh,
and-
absolutely, absolutely. I'm just saying there could be some changes on
Sure.
timing of adoption. But right now, it's, you have to adopt by October 1st, 2028 for distribution in 2030. That's what we know right now. So there is a lag time, that 2029 year, you will still get distributions, but it'll be what you're getting now, public safety and certified chairs.
And we will get those in 29.
Yes, that's what we know right
You
now.
know.
That's even under dispute, but that's what we know right now.
So I guess, in all reality, instead of putting the three of us on the spot to pick a scenario, do we take these and go back and talk to our respective partners at our entities and then?
I think this is good. I
Set
mean,
a
I'm
meeting.
blessed. I've got two here, but I've already spoken with my council. Baker Tilly had ran our scenario, which is, and my council and mayor have that information, but I absolutely will bring this up and where we're at our meeting Tuesday night, or next 2 weeks.
Maybe the same thing with you, Jan, and then I'll talk to the county council, which we've talked about it, and I think obviously anybody that looks at these numbers knows that we don't wanna tax any of our citizens in the county more than what we are currently. Get to where we are and try to hold things as neutral as possible, and then maybe do an email with us again, and we'll
Yep.
set another meeting and open the floor to whoever comes and try to
Absolutely.
work through it.
Yep.
Do you want, Joe, I know you're deep in the fire department world, do you want to try to run the numbers if we were to do the district thing, just to see what it would look like?
They're kind of already there.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, other than
Moving
like,
them around.
You've got that 2.2 million number that.
It doesn't change.
Nope, the 2.2 doesn't change, it's just how do you wanna allocate it, how do you wanna spread it out? Like, if the county says they don't need that much for EMS, I don't know how much you need, but if you don't need that much, then
Have that conversation.
you can reallocate it.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that they need, yeah, absolutely.
What's your thoughts, Gene?
Pardon?
What's your thoughts?
Just
have a
doing what we've talked to our,
conversation.
and then get back.
Then have another meeting and
Open,
schedule
I
it.
agree. Paige, would you send me the presentation tonight?
Absolutely,
Email
I'll
that.
send all of you.
Yeah,
I've
please.
made a lot of notes on here,
Yeah,
so that I
same.
probably could forward that to my, I
Yeah.
was thinking.
I've got notes.
Well,
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
I made notes.
And I will, whenever we schedule the next one, I'll reach out to the township trustees, and I know we have Vienna will be changing for sure, so I may get the person which is Randy Ritchie, get him to come to the next one, just so we can talk to them, get them on board, but
So are we thinking maybe the end of September to meet again?
End of September's bad for me.
Okay.
I mean, you guys, you could even meet at the beginning of October if you needed to. I mean, you
Okay,
still
well,
have.
you've got a month to,
Yeah, you've got some time. We
a
just,
little bit of time.
it's not gonna take
Yeah,
us
I'm
long
going-
at all to
I'm
put
going to
together the
California.
report. So I
Like
we
the
could
18th
meet
to
one more
25th
time in October,
on
and if
baseball
you
trip, and maybe
decide,
look
hey,
at
we're
first.
good on
Yeah, that
something,
works.
whatever it may
Yeah,
be,
I'm
we
good
could just
then.
do the report and send it out for you to sign. Yeah.
Okay. I'm good with
So,
that.
yeah.
Maybe like the first full week of October, we shoot for that
Yep.
time frame, and
I can send you some dates I'm available, and
Okay.
then.
Yeah, please
you
do.
can-
like, yeah.
Yeah.
sounds
And if
good.
there's anything you wanna see, like you're looking at this and I wanna do a different scenario, let us know. We can easily do that and then just email it out to you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you all for being here.
I think that's it for us.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
input.
Yes.